Rescue efforts are underway for survivors of the 6.2 magnitude earthquake that struck Guangzhou, a northwestern province of China. However, cold temperatures that have gone down up to -13 degrees has made it difficult for authorities on top of the disruption in power supply. Good evening, I'm Sarah Chitrakar and these are the headlines of the hour. Policies formed to protect the rights of those with disability limited to papers, people with disabilities living miserable lives. Parliamentary committee directs the government to halt Axiata's efforts to sell its shares in Ncell until detailed investigation takes place. Premier Dahal commits to booking anyone guilty of irregularity. Lack of coordination between government entities affects over 80 projects. Experts say development works obstructed in the name of conservation. And Pokhara Thunderers enter into the playoffs of Nepal Super League, defeating Butwal Lumbini 1-0. Ilam hand Lalitpur its first defeat of the season. The state's constitution has ensured protection and facilities for citizens with disability. The implementation of federalism means that every corner of the country has access to administration. Local representatives are elected by people to work in their interest. However, the government, local levels and people's representatives have remained indifferent towards people with disabilities.
A report by Kantipur television sometime back on Paras, a man with disability who was tied to a rope along with goats, helped call for support in his treatment. However, Paras wasn't the only one in Dhading district who was being kept like an animal. 17-year-old Som Bahadur of Jwalamukhi Rural Municipality and 14-year-old Roshan have been living in similar state. Som Bahadur can neither listen nor talk, while Roshan cannot talk or move. The lack of people to look after them means their family members have to tie them as they leave for daily work. Elsewhere in Ganga Jamuna Rural Municipality in Pokhara, Madan Kumar Tamang has been tied to a rope since few years due to gradual mental illness. The fate is similar for Miklajung Rural Municipality, Patsthar's 19-year-old Dheeraj Rai. Rai's family say he tends to limp towards the road and therefore tie him for safety reasons. These are just representative cases for many across the country living in similar condition. Back in September 2019, the Ministry of Women, Children and Elderly Citizen had corresponded with local levels to rehabilitate people with full disability. Local levels have also been distributing special allowances for disabled people and say they are ready to support anyone in need. However, many families don't reach out for help out of fear of losing the monthly allowances and for reputation concerns. 2.2% of Nepal's population are disabled. Although the state constitution has reserved rights for them, the policies remain limited to papers.
Meanwhile, the government has remained a mere spectator to people with disabilities and those with mental illness being kept in adverse conditions. This has raised questions on the role and purpose of all three tiers of the government. One of the fundamental rights of people under the state's constitution is the right to live with dignity. Every member of the public also have the right to live freely and protects one from being treated in any inhuman manner, among others. The Constitution has also ensured one's right to health services. However, many people with mental illnesses have been deprived of health services, which officials of the Human Rights Commission say is no less than a tragedy. It may be recalled some 4 years ago, the Ministry of Women, Children and Senior Citizens had corresponded with all local levels to collect details of people with full disability and ensure their rehabilitation. However, the latter is yet to comply. The federal government also lacks exact data on how many people are living with disabilities. Experts call on all three tiers of the government to ensure that disabled people are provided all necessary services and highlight on the crucial role that social institutions can play. Raising question on the legitimacy of the formation of the probe committee during the meeting of the State Affairs and Good Governance Committee of the Parliament held earlier today, members of the committee said that the responsibility must be handed over to the concerned state body. Likewise, question had been raised regarding the involvement of the family members of Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal in the sale and purchase of the shares of Ncell. The meeting of the committee held today directed to halt all the process concerning the sale and purchase of Ncell shares until the investigation report is submitted. The meeting also directed the Nepal Rashtra Bank to submit details regarding the outflow amount recorded by Ncell. Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal, who had also attended the meeting, said that a committee had been formed to probe into the possible irregularities on part of Ncell. The Premier pledged to take stern actions against the concerned entities in Ncell if found guilty. Meanwhile, members of the committee raised questions on the legitimacy of the formation of the probe committee and demanded to hand over the responsibility to the concerned government entity. Furthermore, question had been raised regarding the involvement of the family members of Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal in the sale and purchase of the shares of Ncell. Answering the questions raised by lawmakers, Premier Dahal clarified that the members of the probe committee were appropriate for the task. Prime Minister Dahal said that efforts were being made to weaken the government by connecting his family members to the case. Prime Minister Dahal said that required measures will be taken concerning government monitoring, foreign investment and foreign exchange management, as well as tax, among other aspects, after the report is presented. Up until 3 decades ago, the number of women in civil service was scarce. However, a significant number of women have since then joined the civil service, with around 9 holding the highest secretary position. Based on the Department of National Personnel Records, 85,512 are serving in public positions at present, which includes 24,143 women, around 28.23% of the total civil servants. The present time is also a first where 9 women are serving in the highest civil servant positions. The number of women's participation shot up with the implementation of women's quota system since the Nepalese year 2065, around 15 years ago. Out of 77,848 civil servants in the fiscal year 2067-68, 10,773 were women. The number has doubled since then. Apart from the increase in numbers, women are also taking up more leadership roles. Of the 753 local levels, 14 are led by women. 8 out of 77 chief district officers are women, 58 joint secretaries and 365 deputy secretaries are women at present. The presence of women is as significant in lower ranks. 1 justice at the Supreme Court, 1 registrar, 18 judges in High Court and 7 in District Court are women. Based on the Civil Service Act, in order to ensure inclusion, 45% of the total seats are allocated for people of different communities. Women have a reservation of 33%, indigenous communities 27%, Madheshi population 22%, Dalit 9%, those with disability 5% and marginalized communities have 4% quota. Time now for our segment, Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Before that, let's take a look at the result from yesterday's poll. Yesterday, we had asked what should be done to control cybercrime. 50% voted for A, users themselves should be aware. 32% for B, monitoring and punishment. And 18% for C, invest in technology. And here's today's question. What's your take on the increasing participation of women in civil service? Your options are A, result of hard work, B, access to opportunities, and C, a message of gender equality. Voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Majority of the country's development works are struggling to gain momentum. Most have their deadlines extended over various pretexts and they share the same grievance, obstruction from the Department of Forest and Environment. The works of 20-kilometer road section between Pipaltar-Deuri under the Mid-Hill Highway has been obstructed since 6 months by the Community Forest Consumers Committee. The project chief has met with officials of the Department of Forest, however, has failed to make any difference. The construction of the 220 kilovolt transmission line in the Marshangri corridor has also been stalled for similar reason. The hospital that was to be constructed in Kapilvastu's Shivaraj municipality's Chandrauta has yet to kick off despite its foundations being laid. Although the government has allocated land to build the hospital, it would require felling of 79 trees whose permit took 3 years to come. Around 88 projects are waiting for an approval from the Department of Forests to begin. Experts say the lack of coordination between government units is evident through these cases. Forest covers 45% of Nepal's total land. Based on the Forest Act, government and private projects both need to compensate land with land and 10 trees per 1 tree. They are also responsible for raising saplings for up to 5 years. Any project unable to do so can submit equivalent amount to the government. However, this process takes at least 5 years to clear, which has been affecting the government projects. In our Public Voice segment, today we have asked people in several provinces what should be done to improve coordination between government entities. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
पहिला बनाएको संरचना नबदकाइकन अर्को विकास गर्न सजिलो हुन्छ भनेर त्यो चाहिँ सरकारी निकाय नै अलिकति कडा रूपमा नियम कानुन बनाउनु पर्छ।
एउटा पक्षले कुनै निर्णय लिएर छ भने अर्को पक्षले विरोध गर्नु भएन।
वर्गीकृत गरेर चाहिँ कामको सुरुवाती गरियो भने त्यस्ता कामहरुको चाहिँ सहजै तरिकाले चाहिँ विकास निर्माणहरु सम्पन्न हुन्छ।
नियमहरु बनाएर त्यो विकासहरु गर्यो भने सजिलो हुन्छ।
जनता र सरकारी कार्यहरु समन्वय गरेर कता अनुकूल पर्छ त्यही अनुसारले ज्यादा राम्रो हुन्थ्यो।
सबैलाई एक क्षेत्रमै राखेर त्यसपछि यो डीपीआर ईआई र बजेटिङ गरेर त्यो खालको कार्यान्वयन भयो भने यसको समाधान हुन्छ।
प्रदेश सरकार, स्थानीय सरकार र संघीय सरकारलाई समन्वय गरेर सबैलाई एक ठाउँमा ल्याएर नीति नबाजिने गरी बनाउन पठायो भनेपछि अथवा त्यो बजाउने किसिमको वातावरण मिलायो भने अनि प्रभावकारी हुन सक्छ।
पारदर्शिता भयो भने विकास योजनाहरू प्रभावकारी हुन्छ।
स्थानीय सरकार, प्रदेश सरकार र केन्द्र सरकारले अनुमोदन गर्यो भने प्रभावकारी रूपमा हुन्छ।
जुन योजनाहरू सञ्चालन हुन्छ त्यो ठाउँको व्यक्तिहरूलाई जनताहरूलाई समेटेर ल्यायो भने अझ राम्रो हुन्छ।
तिनै तहको सरकार बीच समन्वय हुन जरुरी छ।
Time now for international update. The death toll from 6.2 magnitude earthquake that struck Gangshu, a northwestern province of China, has crossed 127. This has been reported as the deadliest earthquake in 13 years for China. Drone images on state broadcaster CCTV showed numerous houses in a village in Qinghai province half covered in brown slate as rescuers worked alongside excavators and bulldozers to find and rescue survivors. At 11:59 p.m. local time yesterday, the quake struck Jishishan County in Gangshu at a depth of 10 kilometers, according to China Earthquake Network Center (CENC). Chinese President Xi Jinping has ordered thousands of rescue crew to the region. Authorities have swiftly mobilized an array of emergency responses after the quake wrecked roads and infrastructure. Both rescue work has proved challenging in sub-zero temperatures, with most of the China grappling with below freezing conditions after a powerful cold wave swept across the country. Local officials in Jishishan County say more than 5,000 buildings in the area have been damaged. Gangshu lies between the Tibetan and Loess plateaus and borders Mongolia. Power and water supplies have been disrupted, hindering rescue efforts. Xinjiang, another province west of Gangshu, also reported a 5.5 magnitude earthquake, but here were no immediate report of casualties. At least 13 Palestinians have been reported killed and many others injured in an Israeli air raid on the Jabalia refugee camp in the northern Gaza. 29 others were killed in Rafah as 3 residential buildings were bombed. Tens of thousands of displaced Palestinians have crammed into Rafah on Gaza's border with Egypt to escape Israeli bombardments further north, despite fears that they will also not be safe there. The Gaza Health Ministry said on Monday that 19,453 Palestinians had been killed and 52,286 wounded in the Israeli assault on the Hamas-ruled enclave in more than 2 months of warfare. Israel's intensifying action against Hamas has increased concern among governments and international organizations over the civilian death toll, hunger and homelessness.
Sports news.
Pokhara Thunders has booked a place in the playoffs of the Nepal Super League, defeating Butwal Lumbini FC 1-0. Despite several attempts, both the sides failed to find the net in regulation time. However, Moses scored in the stoppage time to break the stalemate. His goal became the decisive one, locking Pokhara's place in the playoffs. With the win, Pokhara collected 14 points in 7 matches. Butwal has 7 points from 7 matches. Thangadi FC will play Chhapa Football Club tomorrow. Sporting Ilam has concluded its debut season for Nepal Super League with a win over Lalitpur City. In its final match of the season, Sporting Ilam defeated Lalitpur 1-0. Ilam scored its winning goal in the 59th minute as Fode Kamara found the net. In the 80th minute, Kamara had another chance to double Ilam's lead, however faltered. Both sides failed to score in the remainder of the match, but Ilam handed Lalitpur its first loss in the season. With 8 points from 8 matches, Ilam are in the 5th position of the points table. Despite the loss, Lalitpur are in the 3rd position with 10 points from 7 matches. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Good night.